Good evening, you are watching the news on DBS TV. Let's begin right away from Cameroon. Cameroon's Prime Minister, Head of Government, Dr. Joseph Dion Ngouthé, has paid a visit to the city of Douala on Tuesday, December 2020. He made a stop at the Japoma Sports Complex, the reunification stadium, newly renovated, training fields and road infrastructures leading up to the various sporting facilities to receive the Africa Cup of Nations competition scheduled for January 16 to February 7, 2021. Prime Minister Ngouthé showed satisfaction for the level of preparedness and the advancement of works.
After visiting the stadiums in Japoma and the Stade de la Réunification here, I am very proud about the achievements that Cameroon has been able to make these past few years. It's taken a lot of sacrifice, but when I see the quality of the stadiums, I think they are of the highest possible level.
Looking at the coronavirus health crisis, which have caused football matches to be played without any spectators, the Prime Minister assures Cameroonians that they will be able to enjoy the AFCON matches live in the stadium, but in conformity with COVID-19 restrictive measures.
I secondly would like to tell the young Cameroonians that after 1 year of COVID, it's been very difficult for them. I think this end of the year should be, or beginning of next year should be a period when they can come out and go to the stadiums. We are going to ask the head of state what percentage of the stadiums should be occupied, maybe 50%. So in a stadium like this that has 40,000 seats, we could put in 20,000 persons to watch the matches.
While calling on Douala city dwellers to come out and enjoy the games, they are also required to ensure hygiene in the town prior to the competition.
Encouraging them to come and to support all the teams that will be playing here in Douala, the different pools that are taking place here in Douala. And I also encourage them the populations of Douala to sort out their city, clean it up. I ask those who are sometimes mischievous to hold on until after our guests go back. We don't want any mischief around, and we have a very effective cameras, videos system which can pick out anybody committing any mischief from even a kilometer away.
Wrongdoers are therefore warned and will be handled accordingly. December is a time of the year when many people in Cameroon and around the world get into holiday festive mood. Few days to the celebration in the economic capital of Cameroon, Douala, the market trend is observed to be timid. Most toys, Christmas trees and decoration gadgets are available but lack customers. According to these vendors, economic hardship and the coronavirus pandemic has slowed down activities as a whole, making it difficult for parents to afford these goods. The closure of borders has also contributed to the modest turnout as prices have skyrocketed, chasing away parents. They, however, express optimism, hoping more and more clients will come over as Christmas and New Year draws near. With this, Christmas may be bleaker than usual this year for an average Cameroonian, reason being a harsh economic downturn from the coronavirus pandemic, curbing the acquisition of toys and gifts. Schools in the Kampo and Niete localities in the Ocean Division, South region of Cameroon, have received didactic material following the growth in the lack of education for youth, as many fail to be educated due to the school's inability to contain them, equally due to the lack of materials. The handing over ceremony took place on Monday, December 14 at the Government Primary School of Kampo Town by the agro-industrial company CAMVERT SA, its Director General outlines the need for the didactic materials distributed to the underprivileged.
They are in need of some equipment, for the children to be able to be educated, to be taught. They need some material. They need books, they need pens, and other stuff. And when we have been called and we have been told that the population of Campo is in need of these materials, we couldn't take more time without coming. It's the reason why we came today to give to those kids the basic, what every kid has the right to.
While handing over the equipment, both teachers and pupils were encouraged to use them judiciously, as the donors hope the gift will increase the rate of education-related success in the Ocean Division. In other African countries, Guinea President Alpha Condé was sworn into office on Tuesday, December 15 for a third term after a violently contested election. During his oath taken, he appealed citizens to consider national solidarity. Condé said he would govern differently, promising to fight corruption and serve Guineans who elected him to another term in office. He urged Guineans to forget the divisive past and work towards a future of unity and hope. The 82-year-old spoke at a ceremony attended by several African heads of state. Condé's main rival, former Prime Minister Cellou Dalein Diallo, claims he won the election, alleging irregularities in the official polls results. The West African country had seen months of deadly political unrest after Condé backed a constitutional referendum approved by voters in March, which effectively allows him to serve 2 further 5-year terms. The Guinean opposition, which says nearly 100 people have died in election-related violence, boycotted the ceremony. In Côte d'Ivoire, Kouadio Konam Bertin has been appointed Minister of National Reconciliation of Ivory Coast on Tuesday, December 15. He was a candidate in the 2015 presidential election and recently appeared as candidate of the October 31, 2020 presidential election, which had Alassane Ouattara as the winner. Announced by Alassane Ouattara during his swearing-in on Monday, December 14, the Reconciliation Ministry was created a day after. In the opinion of many observers, the failure of reconciliation after the post-electoral crisis of 2010 to 2011 is one of the points that was not mentioned in the balance sheet of the first 2 terms of Alassane Ouattara. 52-year-old Kouadio Konam Bertin was an Ivorian statesman, member of the parliament from 2011 to 2016, before his appointment as Reconciliation Minister on December 2020. Rebels from the Boko Haram extremist group have claimed responsibility for the abduction of hundreds of boys from a school in Nigeria's northern Katsina state last week in one of the largest of such attacks in years, raising fears of growing wave of violence in the region. An audio message from a man identifying himself as the leader of Nigeria's Boko Haram, claiming responsibility for the act, was released on Tuesday. "We are behind what happened in Katsina," Boko Haram leader Abubakar Shekau said. "What happened in Katsina was done to promote Islam and discourage non-Islamic practices, as Western education is not the kind of education allowed by Allah and His Holy Prophet," Shekau added in the audio. The number of missing schoolboys remains unclear, but military spokesman General John Enenche said on Monday that 333 pupils were unaccounted for after heavily armed gunmen raided the all-boys government science secondary school in the town of Kankara. Boko Haram's announcement makes the abduction of the pupils the group's first major operation in northwest Nigeria. In the past, insecurity in that part of the West African country was often limited to ambushes of security agents and small-scale kidnappings for ransom. The government and the attackers are negotiating the fate of the boys, according to a spokesman for Nigerian President Muhammadu Buhari. This comes after the governor of Katsina, Aminu Bello Masari, met yesterday with Nigerian president to discuss the incident. The governor said that the kidnappers had established contact and that they were already discussing security and the return of the students to their homes. In Somalia, hundreds of Somalis on Tuesday marched through the country's capital, Mogadishu, to denounce President Mohamed Abdullahi Mohamed, also known as Farmajo. They accuse him of delaying the country's legislative elections in favor of his re-election in 2021. The polls were due early this month, but was dragged over disagreements concerning the composition of the electoral board. The opposition accuses the government of packing it with sympathizers, which officials deny. "We do not want a dictator. We do not want Farmajo," hundreds of protesters chanted, calling for him to quit. Some carried placards with "Farmajo is a curse" written on them. There were reports of clashes between gunmen protecting the protesters and security forces. There was no immediate response from the government to the protest. This comes as Somalia cut diplomatic relations with neighboring Kenya on Tuesday, accusing it of meddling in politics. Tension had been rising between the neighbors as Kenya hosted the president of Somaliland, a breakaway state not recognized by the central government in Mogadishu, which considers the territory as part of Somalia. Hungary's parliament has adopted several pieces of anti-lesbian, gay, bisexual and transgender legislation on Tuesday, including an amendment of the concept of family in the country's constitution and effectively banning same-sex couples from adopting children. The amendment to the constitution, which defines parenthood as the mother is a woman, the father is a man, was approved by a majority of deputies on Tuesday, according to the official website of the Hungarian Assembly. The text defines sex as only that of birth and adds, "Education is provided in accordance with the values based on the constitutional identity and Christian culture of the country." In addition, the parliament passed a law allowing only married couples to adopt children, which in practice excludes homosexuals who are not allowed to wed in Hungary. Exceptions can be made in rare cases. The move has been received with an outcry from human rights groups and LGBTQ advocates. "This is a dark day for Hungary's LGBTQ community and a dark day for human rights," said David Vig, director of Amnesty Hungary. Marcin David, executive director of human rights organization Transgender Europe, called on EU Commission President Ursula von der Leyen to address the rights of LGBTQ parents, the attempt to erase gender-diverse children, and the ban on legal gender recognition in the Commission's rule of law assessment and ongoing EU proceedings against Hungary. In the past, Hungary has been condemned by the European Court for failing to respect its commitment and the primacy of community law over national legislation, and it's regularly criticized by the UN, the EU, OSCE and others for flouting European values and human rights. As Brexit talks continue, discussions for the 2021 fishing opportunities between Britain and the EU are still on the table. Amongst the contentions European ministers have is the limit at which fish can be caught and where exactly fishing will be allowed next year. An agreement on Brexit must be reached before the EU can finish its own talks on fishing opportunities for 2021, according to Germany's fisheries minister. Julia Klöckner, the Federal Minister of Food, Agriculture and Consumer Protection, spoke on Tuesday evening following an annual meeting of European fishing ministers in Brussels, where the following year's fishing opportunities are discussed. She said that as long as Brexit talks are not concluded, an agreement between member states cannot fully be reached. Meantime, environmentalists believe that the EU is risking the sustainability of fish stocks by putting the industry's interest ahead of the health of the waters. They want Europe to demonstrate leadership in looking after the ocean by setting fishing limits in line with scientific advice and end overfishing. Facebook has announced on Tuesday, December 15, that it removed hundreds of fake accounts from Russia and France that targeted countries in North Africa and the Middle East. The social network said it pulled down 3 networks of fake accounts, one of which had links to individuals tied to the French military. Facebook pulled down 84 Facebook accounts, 6 pages, 9 groups and 14 Instagram accounts from France, which once colonized the Central African Republic. The French network targeted the Central African Republic and Mali, and to a lesser extent Niger, Burkina Faso, Algeria, Côte d'Ivoire and Chad, while the second network of Russian-linked fake accounts focused primarily on Libya, Sudan and Syria. The accounts posed as locals and posted comments with support for the French military, claims of potential Russian interference in the Central African Republic election, and other topics. This action comes 1 week before the general elections in the Central African Republic to be held on December 27. That marks the end of today's edition of the news on DBS TV. Thank you for watching and do well to stay with us until we meet again. Good night.